X-Men Apocalypse is the last film of the Bryan Singer X-Men trilogy, and in this one we find that the immortal Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaac, who is also the first and the most powerful mutant, has awakened after 1,000 years. He recruits 4 horsemen with the likes of Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender, and we see others come to the fold and ultimately try and make this new world order. The X-Men must come together and stop him before the world comes to an end. Alright, X-Men Apocalypse. So going into this movie, I dropped all expectations that I had for this film, whether they were good or bad. I heard early reviews of this film and I didn't want that to cloud my judgment when I went to go see this thing. Looking at the previous X-Men films, especially Days of Future Past, I really liked that one, and First Class in this trilogy, I liked that as well. So I reminded myself that I really like those 2 movies, so I went into this one just ready to go. After watching this movie, I have a few things to say about it, so let's get right into the good and the bad of this film. Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I thought the way that Magneto was handled in this film was well done. You can really feel the conviction of this character and why he is angry and why he wants to, you know, do the things that he does in this film. Probably one of my favorite parts in this film was one of the more emotional moments in this movie, in a forest with him and some other characters. Really, really good. Most of the other cast I thought did well in terms of acting. Another standout would probably be James McAvoy as Professor X. I thought he did a well job. In Days of Future Past, guys, Quicksilver stole the show for probably one of the best scenes in that film. And the same goes in this film. Quicksilver in this film was awesome. I loved his character. They improved on him even that much more. The scenes where he was running around were really cool. Something that surprised me in this film was the comedic moments in it. For me, I thought they were a little bit hit and miss, but the ones that I thought worked really well were with Professor X. I thought they were great because one of the most powerful mutants, at the end of the day when he's talking to Moira in the film, you know, he gets a little, you know, quirky, whatever. I thought that was great. Speaking of Moira and Professor X, I thought their chemistry when they're talking and having more emotional tone moments in the film worked well. There's also more of an emotional investment and reward because obviously the previous films, those 2 characters. What about Wolverine? How was he? From the trailers, we know that Wolverine is in this film, and how was he? I thought the way that they used Wolverine in this film was a good plot device in terms of where and how they use him in the story, and I thought it was also a really good hint as to his solo film that's going to be rated R. It also hint at his comic book look in the film, which is really nice. Another thing that I liked was the beginning of this movie with Apocalypse and how he became to be and why he's in this film. The way that they introduced Apocalypse and how he came into the present day was really interesting, and I really bought into him at first. I was kind of one of those people who wasn't really buying into his look and etc. from the trailers, but once you get into the film, it's not that bad. In this movie, we see a lot of new characters. In this X-Men film, we see new actors playing older characters like in the 2000 films, right? We see them in this. Despite them being in just for a short amount of time, I like them just hanging out and being with each other. I like Cyclops in this movie. They gave him some character development early on in the film. I thought that worked well. Another new addition in this movie was Jean Grey. It's Sansa from Game of Thrones. I liked her in the film. I thought she did alright. I just hope that she doesn't, you know, mail it in the next couple of films because I kind of felt at times she was a little bit stiff. But I'm interested to see her in the next X-Men film. Those are some of the standout things that I liked in this film. So now let's go talk some of the things that didn't work the best. The CG in this film. It was not the best in this film in all honesty. And most notably in the ending of the film and around the 3rd act when all this crazy stuff's flying around. It just didn't look that great. Especially in the Quicksilver scene I mentioned. I did like that scene a lot. But I felt it was a little bit too long, I'm gonna admit. It felt just a bit too long. And the CG when they were using, you know, Quicksilver running and everything, it just felt very video gamey and like weird when I was watching it. So this is something that bothered me in the film, and even when I came out after it, I was like, why did they do that? In this film, there's a lot of underused characters, most notably with the 4 horsemen. Storm, they started her off interesting, they developed her character a little bit, and then after they just kind of left her, and it was just like, wait, what? Literally, Olivia Munn's Psylocke in this film. I heard they cut her out, Olivia Munn's Psylocke in this film, and you can see it because she really didn't do that much in this film, and they marketed her otherwise. You see Instagram photos of her moving around with a sword. That's not in the film, really. It's just a bummer because these characters really could have shined and been utilized in this film, but they were just kind of put to the side later on. This film felt long. It's about 2 hours and a quarter. After the first hour or so, which I thought was actually really good, it just starts dragging and dragging, and especially the 3rd act, there's like a solid 10 minutes. If they cut that down, it could have been that much better. Another thing that these films are really known for are the suits. And again, the way that they put the suits in this film, it just felt like it was so random. And it just was like, how do you know they're all gonna fit? It was kind of silly in my opinion. Apparently Apocalypse is like a designer. You know, he's like a god and all, but like he's like sick at some fashion design because he makes all the costumes in this film. This really bothered me because as the film goes, they just kind of like slowly get better and better suits as you see them. Wait, what? How did you get that? I can't help but feel like they forgot about how to explain how to put the suits in, and they just kind of threw it in one scene in the background. As I mentioned, guys, Wolverine, he was cool. He had some really nice parts, good plot device. But the way he was in context of the film and the situation, it just felt out of place and kind of brought me out of the film just for a little bit. The writing is pretty bad with the dialogue. There are some scenes where it's Jean Grey and Cyclops talking, and it's just like bad. It's like a little cringy, in all honesty. Jennifer Lawrence, okay. Sign her out of her contract because she does not care about this role, man. Like, it's clear that she like really male called it in this one. Like, she is not in it 100%. Like, you can just tell by her acting, the way she's performing, and that she's not in it. I get it might be a different Mystique the way that she's portrayed in this film, but man, she was not in it, I'm telling you. She is literally more human in this film than she is her actual Mystique form, all blue and everything. And the makeup for the Mystique looks like it's like a Smurf. It's not as good, I think, as it used to be. And I think that's Jennifer Lawrence, you know, just making demands. It's not as good as it could be. As I mentioned earlier, guys, I wanted to see more of these new X-Men in the film, these new younger mutants. But they cut out an entire scene of them in the mall, apparently. Like in a promotion that came out this week, there was Nightcrawler getting a brain freeze. There were some cool interactions in that scene. Maybe it was a montage or whatever. That's not in this film, and I really felt like that could have made a little more development with these newer characters that we wanted. The X-Men movie continuities have always been a little iffy, and I think this film even, you know, furthers that. The last thing with the film that really bothered me was the third act. As I mentioned, the first hour or so in this film, I actually liked it a lot. But man, the special effects are bad. There were no stakes in the fight, there were abrupt cuts, and there was just no reward in the final fight scene with Apocalypse. I found myself in the theater, and by the time the big fight scene was done, I'm like, okay, finally, it's over. Because it was just so long. There was like a solid like 10 minutes that didn't need to be there. It was Magneto just like this in a force field for like 10 minutes, and then Charles was like, okay, go for it. In the end, guys, I didn't hate X-Men Apocalypse, but I didn't think it was that great either. The film had its good moments with Quicksilver and some really good emotional beats, but the film also dragged on quite a bit and had a messy third act with some iffy dialogue at parts. I'm gonna give X-Men Apocalypse a 6 out of 10. Those are just my thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse, guys. Let me know, what did you guys think of the film? Did you like it? Did you think it was alright? Did you not like it at all? Let me know in the comment section down below. So the next X-Men film is set in the 90s, so I'm interested to see how that's gonna go and how, if they age or not, like which actor they're gonna choose to be Professor X and all that stuff. If you guys like this video, you can leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. Also, guys, don't forget you can check me out on my social media. I have the Twitters, the Instagram, and the Twitch all down in the links below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace. I'm Quicksilver!